Do you think that non-citizens, when they've self-identified as a non-citizen, should stay on the voter roll and therefore be in a position to potentially vote in a presidential election?
Well, good news. We've got another Republican who understands exactly what he's getting with the incorporated propaganda media. And he was prepared as he walked into Jake Tapper's lion den. He is Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin. Now, the subject at hand is the fact that Biden's Justice Department is suing his state because he's had the audacity to ensure that the voter registration rolls in Virginia don't include people who aren't supposed to vote. That includes non-citizens. He found 60, 70, 80,000 of them, actually. And apparently Jake Tapper is very concerned about that. Watch as Jake Tapper furrows his brow in a very serious and concerned way about this outrageous behavior in Virginia. And watch Glenn Youngkin chew him up and spit him out.
Foremost, this is a law that's been on our books since 2006. It was a law that was signed by then Democrat Governor Tim Kaine, and it requires our election process and governors to use DMV data when an individual self-identifies as a non-citizen, and there is a match with that person on the voter rolls, to then notify that person that they have 14 days to affirm that they're a citizen or not, and if they're not, then they are removed. This process has been in place since 2006. We've just had recent Democrat governors like Terry McAuliffe and Ralph Northam use this exact same process within the 90-day period because it is individualized. An individual starts the process by self-identifying as a non-citizen. And therefore, as governor, I have an obligation, no discretion, to then run the process to notify that person through our registrar that they have 14 days to clear it up. And if they don't clear it up, they're going to be removed from the voter rolls. The big question I have is, given the clarity of the constitutionality of what I just described, both at the federal level and the state level, and laws at the federal level and the state level that not only require me to do this, but are focused on the fact that these are individual steps that start with someone identifying as a non-citizen, why is it that anyone could argue that a process that removes non-citizens off of our voter rolls is anything else other than common sense and constitutional? And that's my frustration with this whole process, which is it started 25 days before a presidential election. They could have started it a long time ago. We would have sorted this out because I firmly believe they are wrong. But this seems far more political than otherwise, simply because of the fact this has been going on since 2006, according to law. And they chose 25 days before an election in Virginia in order to assert something which really is inconsistent with the process that we're doing.
God, I love plain-spoken, intelligent, knowledgeable, and confident Republicans who just tell it like it is. There's something so great to see right there. And you'd love how Jake Tapper is trying to jump in there, trying to interrupt, trying to challenge him, but Youngkin wasn't going to have it. Understand how he just described this so-called controversy. It was back in August when Governor Youngkin and Attorney General Jason Miyares decided to do this. And again, it's the law in Virginia. He doesn't have a choice. He has to do this. But the process couldn't be simpler. What starts and triggers this entire motion and put things into motion to get somebody taken off of the voter registration rolls? The first thing that happens is that the person who registered to vote checked a box on the electronic screen or on paper that says, I am not a U.S. citizen. Now, first of all, that should halt the entire registration process, right? For some stupid reason, at the Department of Motor Vehicles in Virginia, it goes ahead and brings you the next screen and says, oh, well, welcome to America, non-citizen. Would you like to register to vote now? And they do. And they register to vote. So the first issue that starts this entire process is the individual who self-identifies as a non-citizen. But before they're taken off the voter rolls, they're given notification in 14 days to clear this up. Are you a citizen? If so, let us know and we'll keep you on the voter rolls. All right. By the way, one other thing, because they're being sued by they did this in August, not until 25 days before the election did Biden's corrupt, politicized Merrick Garland controlled Justice Department decide to make a political issue out of this, claiming that Glenn Youngkin and Republicans are trying to disenfranchise people. And their argument, by the way, is, well, If they were non-citizens back when they were registered, they might be citizens now. They may have gone through the naturalization process, and you're going to take them off the voter rolls. They should have the right to vote. Okay, two things there. First of all, that person who's now a citizen, allegedly, who registered to vote when they weren't a citizen, that's a felony. They broke the law, okay? Number one. But number two, if you show up at the polling place and your name is not on the voter registration, they hand you a provisional ballot anyway. They get your information, they give you a provisional ballot, and then after the other ballots are counted, if it's needed, they'll go ahead and check and they'll verify that that ballot is in fact a valid one, and it will be counted as well. So there really, literally is nothing to this. No one's going to be kept to vote. But that didn't stop the Biden administration from politicizing this, because they want the headlines that mean old nasty Republicans are trying to rig the election and modify the vote. And this is in Virginia, by the way, a state that Democrats have won since 2008. Isn't it fascinating that they're really concerned about Virginia? I find that fascinating. So Youngkin lays it out there very clearly, but guess what? Jake Tapper's not satisfied. He knows there's a racist, xenophobic, rigged election scandal here somewhere.
Why not just honor that 90-day period?
Well, let me just first begin. It's anything but a purging program. It begins with someone identifying themselves as a non-citizen. And I guess I would posit back to you, do you think that non-citizens, when they've self-identified as a non-citizen, should stay on the voter roll and therefore be in a position to potentially vote in a presidential election?
I don't think any non-citizen should vote. How are they self-identifying?
Okay, hold on. Now that's a great moment, by the way. Again, I love good, smart Republicans who are confident enough to be able to handle the media, and Glenn Youngkin's that guy. Let me ask you, Jake. Do you think a non-citizen should be on the voter roll? Do you think that should be the case? And I want to hear look at Jake, oh, yes, I'm very moderate and down the middle. I don't think any non-citizen should vote. But by the way, that's a very interesting answer. The question was not whether a non-citizen should vote. The question is, should a non-citizen be on the voter registration roll? Because let me explain a dirty little secret here. You'll hear Democrats say all the time, there really aren't widespread occurrences of non-citizens voting, which, by the way, I don't know how they know that. It really hasn't been investigated or researched. But what this is really about is getting a whole lot of names on the voter registrations that shouldn't be there and aren't going to show up to vote probably. And then somehow absentee ballots just sort of show up out of the thin blue air from them. And it's never cross-checked and they never verify it. And this isn't really about who's voting. It's about who's registered to vote and then whether there are ballots submitted on their behalf. See, dead people don't vote. But somehow we've had years and years and years of instances where ballots show up on behalf of those dead people. How does that happen? It's a hell of a coincidence, isn't it? Anyway, back to Jake Tapper getting to the bottom of this. He wants to know how exactly these people are non-citizens.
How does that happen?
They actually tick a box that says, I am a non-citizen, or they do not answer the question that they are a citizen. And therefore, they self-identify that they are not a citizen in the United States of America. And this is why this is so out of bounds in my mind from the Justice Department. They fully understand this. They understand the process starts with a person self-identifying as a non-citizen, and then there is a match with that person's name on the voter rolls, and they are given not just one, but up to 3 times in order to try to cure it. And this is why I find this to be a very, very unreal moment that is stunning, that they filed this suit 25 days before a presidential election, when in fact this has been going on in accordance with our Constitution, the federal Constitution, and state law since 2006.
That's right. So just to sum up here, first of all, we want to applaud Governor Glenn Youngkin, like other Republicans who have really stepped up, and we're featuring many of them in today's show. He goes in there, he tangles it up with the media, he calls them out and brings the facts, and he does it in a very straightforward, disciplined, and intelligent way, and communicates very well. He's a winner, just like J.D. Vance over the weekend with the New York Times podcast, as well as ABC News, just like Mike Johnson with CBS News, and some other examples we're going to show you. We spend a lot of time complaining about the media, and we spend a lot of time complaining about politicians. But when people who represent us and our perspective and our politics really step up and do a great job, they deserve some kudos. And Glenn Youngkin's one of them. You're going to see a lot of headlines about this story. Justice Department, it's a civil rights violation. They're suing the Commonwealth of Virginia for violating the civil rights of people who have the right to vote. And here we go. It's just like the Jim Crow days. They're purging the voter rolls, and it's none of that. It's none of that. It's the Biden, Harris, Garland Justice Department doing what they've done for the last 3.5 years, using the law as a political weapon to manipulate you and to manipulate the press to talk about these stories in the same way that I just laid out. This is a law that's been on the books since 2006, signed into law by Democrat Tim Kaine when he was governor. Virginia has no choice. They have to do this by statute. They have to get rid of people who don't deserve to be on the voter rolls. The people who have been removed from the voter rolls first registered while at the same time identifying themselves as non-citizens. This was done in August. It didn't take until now for the Justice Department to do something about it, which is, by the way, also a week after the ACLU filed a private civil rights suit against Virginia. Isn't that fascinating? How the ACLU does it, and then a week later, Merrick Garland's Justice Department follows suit and does the ACLU's bidding. One other thing that's really, really important, the way this statute works and the way the federal intervention works, Virginia now has a waiting period to be able to respond to the federal lawsuit. Their response won't be until after Election Day. The Justice Department knew that. The Justice Department knew that Virginia wasn't going to even be able to say anything back about this until after Election Day. And the Justice Department knows that this is a losing case, that Virginia is in the right. None of that matters. The Justice Department is using the law as a political weapon against Virginia, against Republicans, just as we've seen them do against Republicans for the last, well, many, many years.